Cut out the drag race.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would everyone please silence their cell phones? Ms. Suttles, would you have a roll call, please?
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks,
Here.
Commissioner Fields,
Here.
Commissioner Gray,
Here.
Commissioner Withrow.
Here.
We have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Okay, Ms. Miller, you ready?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, sir. That brings us to item 4, approval of the minutes. We have one set of minutes for April 11, 2023, our regular meeting. Is there any comments or questions about how it's proposed or presented today? Hearing-
So moved.
Second.
All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. That does bring us to our public hearing of the portion of the agenda. We are going to call to order a public hearing meeting. This is for discussion on the use of the municipal road aid funds. For the record, those who are present, Mayor Plummer, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Fields, Commissioner Gray, and Commissioner Withrow. We do have a sign-in sheet at the front table if anybody would like to sign in for the purpose of this public hearing. This public hearing will discuss the use of the municipal road aid funds that we are to receive. So through the state, each year we do receive funds that have limited purpose use. We are on schedule to receive about $185,000 for those municipal road aid funds this year. Those funds are being proposed for the resurfacing of public streets is the intended use of those funds. Is there anybody here who would like to publicly comment on the use of those funds? For the purpose of the public meeting for municipal road aid, is there anybody here who would like to comment on the use of the public fund?
I would move we close the public hearing and note that nobody had a comment
Thank you, sir.
Or signed up.
or signed up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are now closed from the public hearing. That does bring us to Resolution 2023-4, which is related to the municipal road aid funds and the use of them, as well as the emergency agreement, which allows us to pay a portion to have access to additional funds in the event of an emergency. Brian, do we need to read the whole title block?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's there before me.
So the recommended motion is to move to approve Resolution 2023-4. May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any comments, questions, or concerns related to this resolution?
I would say this, that emergency portion is very important. We have used that in the past and needed it in a couple of emergency situations, so.
All right, Ms. Suttles, can you call the roll?
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Fields,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Withrow.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Brings us to Section 7, which is our ordinance. Item A, we are doing a first reading of the code enforcement ordinance. Oh, I'm sorry, I did, sir, thank you. Number 6, special presentations. We have Mr. Johnson, Mr. Soper here from Magnolia Trace, if you guys want to come forward. Thank you, sir.
How are y'all today?
Morning, guys. Well, and yourself?
Good.
So I'm just gonna introduce this. I'm David Soper. I know most everybody here, I think everybody knows me. This is Mike Johnson. We're here on behalf of Magnolia Trace. We have a couple of requests or items for discussion with the commissioners. First, I think it's important that everybody knows that all cities need, a growth plan, and it's imperative that they continue to grow. It brings new businesses, housing, and new people, all of which are important elements of a thriving city. We've received a lot of feedback from businesses who are looking to expand and grow here in Paris, as well as the current residents and community officials alike, that one of the key elements we need here is more housing. It's a current weakness within the city of Paris. There's just not enough of it, and we have a large wait list of people that are looking to relocate or move here for some of the residential units that we have in our development. I guess the first item for discussion or request we have is in regards to fees, specifically the sewer tap fee. So when a sewer tap is performed, it's done so by the owner or developer, and they incur all costs and labor in order to achieve that tap. And we as developers have invested significantly into the infrastructure and network of the sanitary sewer system out there at Magnolia Trace, and we will supply all the material and labor to execute these taps. What we're asking for is some sort of incentive in regards to these tap fees, and we've done quite a bit of research. There's a bunch of municipalities across the nation that have offered some sort of incentive package to developers or to homeowners in order to spur growth or stimulate growth within the society. Those range anywhere from a 3-year waiver of some fees or all fees, and what we're asking is you all to consider it. We understand the city does incur some labor expense and some material expense in regards to the water tap, and we're okay with paying something in regards to that. We're not asking for a complete exclusion of everything, but just a consideration in regards to the sewer tap. And I don't know if you all want to talk about this, discuss it, or want me to kind of go through my list and then we have open it up for questions, whatever you guys want to do. Second, I guess is just a matter of formality. We're aware the city does pay for some street lights throughout the community. We are going to have some street lights. We are asking for a little better aesthetic appeal for the street lights. We don't want just the standard pole with a light up top. We want something that's kind of ornate, got a little better feel to it. We have developed a light plan with KU and do have a layout currently. The development plan that we have is going for the final adoption. Currently it's in motion, and what we need, we've talked with Donnie from KU, and what we need is a representative from the city to execute the agreement for streetlights. And I guess what we're here to ask you all for is consideration of that and trying to finalize that and wrap it all up. The city or the streets will go for adoption. I believe it's May 18th is the final planning and zoning commission meeting. Granted, everything is approved and then it'll come before you all. So trying to keep all that in line, keep our ducks in a row, and have it all go through with one fell swoop. We know and understand the city has some extra funds and is looking at investing into some structured brokerage investments. And in conclusion, what we're asking the city to do is invest in itself. With new housing, it'll give the city revenue, which will provide endless investment opportunities in the future. And that wraps up everything I've got. We'll open it up for questions from you all, or anything you'd like to ask us, and we'd be happy to answer for you.
Do you mind just briefly sharing details of the project of what you're building, and this is what you have for phase 1, as well as your planned future for future phases?
Sure. So for phase 1, what we're taking for final adoption currently is a smaller portion on the front side. It contains 2 lots of commercial property consisting of approximately 5 acres, and there is 47 residential lots that will all be townhouses. These will all be included in phase 1. Now for the future of the property, there is another 17 plus or minus acres of R5 multifamily and another 22 acres of single family in the very back. Now these will be done in phases. It won't all come online at once. We're looking for some controlled growth within the city. We're not looking to expand and grow up and be a Lexington tomorrow, and we're well aware of that. So this first phase, which will start working on the buildings, probably in the next month or two, we'll have about 47 residential units.
Mayor, Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Well, I mean, I guess initially, are they, my quick thoughts are 47 townhomes at $900 a piece is what, Brad, that's like $42,000 or something? Are you requesting that or every tap out there in the whole development or?
Currently, what we have is phase one, what we have before you. We're not requesting a complete waiver, just something that you all come up with to incentivize the growth. You know, we'd love it to waive every bit of it, but anything helps us in today's time with the increased labor cost and material costs.
I personally think we kind of know those numbers and we're gonna have budget workshops and things, and Brad, maybe you can update us on what, you know, what we have and how much we are able to do. Personally, I want to do something to encourage growth and development, and we just gotta look at the numbers closer to see just what we can do, and then run it by Brian to make sure it's acceptable and what we can do.
Yeah, excuse me. And I think in a lot of communities, what you'll see is they will adopt a policy. Because this isn't just a
Yeah.
one-off, someone
We
kind
currently
of.
have nothing.
We do not,
Nothing
right,
on the books to
right. And so it would be a
incentivize.
true incentive, like you would have a minimum number of new residential units. And if you have that minimum number, and that's gonna depend on what the community is, and probably when Andrea's helps to identify what that number is, that would be an incentive. And if you're over that, then, and David mentioned like there's usually a time
Time
period. Because the whole point of
Yeah,
incentive
you
is
can't just-
get this built,
Right.
don't just sit on
Right.
it, so.
Yeah, there was one that I looked at pretty extensively, and it was somewhere out west. It was a 3-year period in which the city granted an ordinance that allowed any new development the waiver of in their case, it was a building fee, an application fee, and half of all tap fees, which, you know, we're up for discussion there. Whatever you all feel is appropriate and can accommodate, we'd be happy to accept, so.
We
feel like,
obviously,
if I can speak, we feel like it's, you guys are gonna be taking the sewer lines over, and we're doing 1,000% of the work there. We're all materials, all labor, so we're not really asking the city to give us any money. It's just don't pay for the services that we're doing already. Now, the water taps, you guys are doing all that work, so, you know, we would expect to pay for that. I mean, we're not asking for something for free by any means. We're just, you guys do all the work on the water, the saddles, the canisters, everything, the meters. So that's, you know, that's completely fair. We're doing all the work, 1,000% of it on the sewer line, so it's pretty costly, you know, with this many units. If we had one sewer tap per building, you know, that changes things, but we're building these fee simple, so in the future we can sell them individually. So we have to have a tap for every single unit, and that's just kind of gets exorbitant.
it's obviously a good place to be in.
Okay. How far along are you all in phase one?
We're,
I see you all out there working all the time.
yes,
but-
ma'am, we're close to blacktop. So the water lines are in, sewer lines are in, the storm drain system's in. Curb, hopefully will be in this week. We have our DGA gravel base down, and blacktop is tentatively scheduled for Monday, 1st. So pretty far along.
So I can kind of pull some ideas about incentive plans as a policy.
That's what I was gonna say, it's obviously a good place to be, that we're discussing having to come up with a policy. We haven't faced this before, we need housing, you know, we need to do something to encourage more, so.
Well, I kind of agree with Mike. I mean, I think we gotta see what we can do, and I guess with the budgets and with us beginning to work on those things, we can figure out what we can afford to do at that point.
All right.
So that's on the tap fees. Did you guys want to discuss the streetlights any further?
You still waiting for some information on that?
So as far as doing an audit of our full system and where we have streetlights and who's charging, that's the piece that needs to be looked at further. But there are some HOAs who receive a bill for a portion of their streetlights, the post and the top part of it. It's a portion of it they receive a bill for, and
And
so
you're
that,
not, they're not doing an HOA, right?
Correct. All ours will be deed restrictions, so it'll be kind of governed by the deed instead of an HOA authority.
so then the question on the table is, they are asking for a little bit of a nicer streetlight, which we have not historically done. We don't have them currently on the KU bill that I could see any that we're being billed for that type. So to give you an idea, the cheapest light, which we don't necessarily are we advocating for the cheaper development, but comes to about $2,200 a year in cost versus the light that they're currently looking at is about $5,000 a year. And that's for the 12 lights that they're doing it, and that's not per light. So the consideration and the request on the table is that they are requesting to do a nicer street light, which would require the city to sign off on, or they would have to go back to the lower tier street light.
Can we include that in our budget discussions as well? Just,
Certainly.
okay.
So that is how we will move forward on those items. Did you guys have anything else
So
additional?
just thank you all for your time and the consideration.
Thank you, guys.
Alright, so that now brings us to section 7, our ordinances. Item A is ordinance 2023-3. We are having a first reading of that ordinance, and that is related to just the inclusion of one additional item related to the flood
Flood damage.
Flood
prevention.
damage, thank you. The flood damage prevention portion of our ordinance would come under this board. So that is the only change that we've made to this proposed ordinance, but just to be clear, we're doing a first reading to reread that. Brian, did you want to?
Yeah, I'll just say, we're well out in front timing wise, so we weren't losing anything by doing a new first reading for these 2 weeks. So we wanted to, I know there are later changes coming to the flood prevention ordinance, but rather than amend this in 3 months or whenever that's done, it's just easier to go ahead and include it now, so that it'll be in the books from the beginning, or online from the beginning.
Are there any questions or comments from the mayor and commission? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to item B, which is the first reading of ordinance 2023-4. This is an item that we had discussed previously as well, related to, it amends the personnel policy in a couple of ways. It adds the New Year's Eve holiday, which we've granted over the last 2 years. It just memorializes that, gets that formally in policy, as well as the Juneteenth policy, the Juneteenth holiday that we've been discussing. It also does some cleanup items related to Veterans Day, where it will recognize Veterans Day on Veterans Day, as opposed to currently the language is the first Monday. So we're doing some cleanup there. These are all things that have been brought before you previously. The last thing is we looked at police, fire, and dispatchers who currently do not get the holiday due to the schedule that they're working. And in acknowledgement of that, we are adding an hour a month to their accrual rates, which would be 12 hours annually that they would get additional time. That is something that I think needs further review, and we really need to take a holistic policy review of how we do our accruals. But given that we're adding additional holidays for the rest of employees, we felt that it would be important to also recognize this group of employees as well, and try to provide them some additional benefit. Are there any comments, questions, concerns? That would move us to consent agenda. We currently have 9 items on consent. Is there any items that anybody would like to remove and discuss separately? Hearing none, may I get a motion to approve consent items A through I?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to regular agenda. We have the March financials. Brad?
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. On page 59, you'll see the beginning of our cash balance reports for the general fund. Just one thing to point out, we did have somewhat of a dip in our March 31st operating cash balance, and that was just due to timing of processing. I think the holidays and spring breaks kind of slowed us down getting some things posted there. So we'll see a rebound in our cash balance at during the month of April for sure. So at the end of March, you'll see we have 9.8 million in operating funds, around 94,000 in restricted funds. We did transfer 215,000 out of the municipal road aid fund to cover street paving from last fall. We finally received that invoice to pay. Moving on to page 60, you'll see our summary of revenues and expenditures for budget to actual purposes. So at the end of March, you'll see we had total revenues right around 8.9 million, almost 9 million, just about 1.3 million short of our budget. Our expenditures are at 6.7 million compared to a budget of 10 million. We do have still some unplanned or some expenditures coming up that will probably get us fairly close on our projections to where we're at on our budget for our expenditures. But as of the end of March, our revenues exceeded our expenditures by 2.2 million, or $50,604. Looking at our projections through the end of June 30th, we can still see that revenues are going to exceed our expenditures by 811,000. Obviously, that number is always a fluctuating number, just because of what we're anticipating on those last couple months. Next couple pages have the trailing 12-month revenues for you guys for taxes and license fees, just for you to see how we kind of trend over the year and just not necessarily try to cut it off at June 30th or a December period. You can see that we still are kind of maintaining for this current year our revenues in total on page 62 for both taxes and license fees. And one thing I did start doing was dropping in the totals from the prior months, just so I can kind of track to see if we have any big fall-offs as we move into the next months and everything. Obviously, April, you can see we're usually right around $1 million in collections. So that's what we're anticipating for this, for 2023 in April, is close to that number. So be able to really finish up our projections on revenues once we know what our April collections are. And then just next couple pages break down each one of those detailed accounts for you. On page 67, you'll get a roll-up of our expenditures that just kind of ties back to our summary page as well too. One thing I did want to point out to you on this, we do have the community partners, which obviously is approved and fixed payments on a monthly basis, so that's why we're not showing any projected variances. The next section we have in there is non-controllable expenses, and really what that is we deem non-controllable just they're either fixed payments such as the insurance, or there's significant factors such as, let's say, inflation for fuel and some other for utilities. So it's really just things that we're kind of tracking separately that the department heads may not necessarily have a control over just because of those factors. So you can see from an operating standpoint on our total non-controllables, our projections were about 330,000 over on that. But really, once we get down into where the department heads can control expenditures, we're kind of making up those expenditures as well too, and even looking at some of our capital projects. But we're still kind of reviewing some of those numbers, so that may change a little bit. So that's kind of the general fund. And then moving on to page 70, we'll have the utility fund cash balances. We still are maintaining a really good cash balance in the utility fund, as you can see from our operating funds. 911,000 total at the end of March, compared to about 1.1 million at the end of February. And even if we go back to last year at this point in time, still about 100,000, not 100,000, but about 40,000 ahead, 30 to 40,000 ahead. Was able to, down in our restricted funds, put about 200,000 into the savings at the end of March as well too. As well as set aside usually about 40,000 on our electric fee charges as well. So continue to see kind of good growth in our restricted funds. I know we do have some things, expenditures coming up on that we'll be using some of that for us, but it's good to get that balance up. Moving on to page 71 is our revenues and expenditure summaries for the utility fund. So as you can see, we are still, revenues are exceeding our expenditures by 1.8 million. Looking at our projections column through the end of June 30th, we still see our revenues are exceeding our budgets by 530,000. And once again, kind of have that projection, a little bit more better of a detail of how we're tracking our revenues. And this is really kind of laid out with what our consultants had done about 2 or 3 years ago when we started doing the rate changes and those kind of things as well too. So we're seeing some pretty good growth and good factors obviously change out on the water meters. We're seeing that on the water side of it as well too. I think just seeing inflation has kind of got that growth number in there for on the electric as well too. So we're seeing that kind of related in our expenditures as well too. And then page 73 has got the detailed expenditures as well too. Once again, it's kind of the same concept between non-controllable and controllable, kind of tracking those in a different meaning as far as working with the department heads more on the controllable expenditures. And then starting on page 76, you guys have the detail for each one of the funds for revenue and expenditures.
And if I may just briefly add, while we're headed in a good direction, we're headed in a better direction than we've been for a number of years. There is a fair amount of some deferred maintenance that we need to catch up on it as well. So there's definitely some things that we need those funds for in order to make sure we're continuing to provide the quality of services that we need to. So I think that's the piece that we're excited to be able to start to look to those things that need to be worked on.
Thank you, Brad. I'd move we accept the financial report.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to outside agency. Ms. Biddian, do you want to kick us off?
Thank you. Good morning. Just want to say that if you attended Art Walk, which most of you did, you saw that it was probably one of the, of course I say that all the time, but I think this time probably was one of the best that we've had. Weather held out, lots of people were in town. I talked to most of the stores that stayed open, and all of them this time said people came inside. They had good sales, they actually sold things, there's people outside, so on that count, it was very successful. So now with that said, you can't do an event like that without a whole lot of help. And I just want to personally thank the police department, Don Turner and Myron's crew. I mean, they were everywhere. They were keeping order. They were keeping people happy. They were walking up and down the street. They spent time trying to get all the cars off the street. All of that's very important prior to, during, and after. Mike Smith's team, I'm telling you all, there were so many people. And that night, when I saw the trash, and I knew that those guys had to come in and pick up the trash, I'm like, oh dear. And, they were in that night getting the trash picked up. So that was very much appreciated. Of course, Sparky's crew sets up all the electric on every block so that we have the appropriate electricity for the vendors and the band and the food trucks and all that. The sheriff's office, I saw Tony Asbury down there, Judy Hudson. from the park. You all don't realize those picnic tables get brought in from Bourbon County Park. So everybody adds a little bit to the mix. And then, of course, the fire department is always standing by in case there's anybody gets sick, anybody falls down, or anything happens. So I appreciate all the help that the city and the county give. Coming up, we talked about First Fridays, and originally we intended to do them May through August, and then we've made the decision to not do it on May and to do it just during the summer months, June, July, and August. That gives us more time to plan, and this year, First Friday was the night before Derby, so we figured that it would probably be best to start in June with a big successful kickoff that month. Upcoming, we've got just a couple of promotions downtown. Derby Day downtown is the 6th. Mother's Day is the 13th for downtown shopping and dining and just general promotion of our downtown stores. Storytelling Festival is May 12th to the 14th, so we've been promoting that heavily. And of course, Juneteenth is June 17th. So right now, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Andrea?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so as of yesterday, we have officially submitted our 5-year report for the National Flood Insurance Program. So I'm proud to make that announcement. I'm going to make another announcement in a little bit, but we've been working hard to just make sure that we are up to snuff with the National Flood Insurance Program. One item of which is submitting a report every 5 years. So we did receive a visit from FEMA a month ago, so that is officially submitted. We are currently a Class 8 community. That's our CRS rating, which means that flood insurance holders get a 10% discount. The hope is that in the future, the City of Paris can continue climbing up that ranking to at least a 7. That would get a 15% discount, but for right now it's 10. I will remind you all that just this year is the update of the flood maps. So we are going to have an open house on June 7th. It'll be advertised in the newspaper, and you'll hear about it time and time again, so that the community has access to those new maps that are coming out. It's the first time in over 10 years that the flood insurance rate maps have been updated. I'm going to go over some items that are going to be happening this week. It's a really busy week for the planning office in particular. We have a code enforcement workshop with the fiscal court this evening, so we're going to be going over the code enforcement ordinance with them. The goal is for them to have their second reading of the ordinance on May 11th. So we're trying to line all the legislative bodies up so that we can get this adopted. The University of Kentucky has been working on a couple of landscape architecture projects in Bourbon County this spring semester, one of which is focused on the West Side neighborhood. Tomorrow evening there is a presentation down in Lexington at the UK, they call it the Good Barn. That's where the landscape architecture students have their courses. That's at 6 p.m. down at UK, and you know, please join if you're able to, or if you want to carpool, let me know. There will be a group of us going down there. They will also be doing a presentation in Paris. So the only opportunity is not just in Lexington. They will be coming to Paris on May 1st, which is next Monday, and that is going to be at the high school cafeteria at 6 o'clock. Otherwise, I do have an announcement that I need to make today, and you all had received an email from me at the end of last week. It's kind of bittersweet announcement for me to make, but I have chosen to resign from my position as planning director. This will be effective July 1st. I'm trying to give enough time so that the job can be posted and recruitment can occur of candidates for the position. So you will see posting in the newspaper this upcoming Thursday. As you all know, we are personnel of the Bourbon County Fiscal Court. So Judge Williams will oversee the hiring process in partnership with Guy Bowman. I'm sure between the two of them, they will figure out whether they want a committee or how they want to go about the hiring process. My role is trying to tie up some loose ends before I go. That 5-year report for the National Flood Insurance Program, that was a big to-do. The code enforcement ordinance is another one that we need to get the ball rolling with this and get the group established. The West Side Revitalization District is another. So the Planning Commission will be considering that first text amendment language on May the 18th. And then the comprehensive plan. So there's a lot to finish up. And I'm going to try my hardest to get these items done. I'm not going anywhere. I'm still going to be in Paris. I'm just going to be pursuing some other career goals that I have, one of which is my small business on Main Street. But I do also hope to remain involved in the community. And so you'll still see me. It's just going to be wearing a different hat. I want to thank you all. This has been probably the most challenging experience in my career that I've had here in Paris, but it's been certainly the most fulfilling experience also. And I hope, I'd like to think that I'm leaving the office with a decent foundation for the next person that comes in. So thank you all for your partnership and your support over the past 7 years. It has been an opportunity of a lifetime for me, and so I hope you take it as a compliment. I'm here to stay. I'm not leaving the community to go somewhere else. I'm remaining in the community, and because I love this community for better or worse. And so yeah, that's the announcement that I was wanting to make for. It's kind of bittersweet news, but there it is.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you, Andrea. I know it's only been a short 9 months, but I've enjoyed working with you.
Yes.
I know that I shared that with you privately, and appreciate all you do.
Thank you.
Ms. Lauren?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I am also resigning. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Really?
Don't put that on record. We need a joke after that. Okay. We have a lot of exciting things going on. First off, I want to make sure I invite you guys. This Thursday, we're doing a business after hours in partnership with the Hopewell Museum to welcome the new Hopewell Museum Executive Director, Denise Brown. She is awesome. She's very outgoing, and so that's 5:30 to 7:30 at the Hopewell Museum. I hope you guys can attend. We just wanted to make sure that she was welcome to the community appropriately, so I hope everybody can come out and welcome her. A second thing that I have just put out is our wage survey. I had some businesses reach out to me recently just about like wage information and like how much they should be offering new employees and different things like that. So that's kind of where that came from. It wasn't in any sort of like plan that we were working on or anything like that, but I thought in perspective to what they were asking me that this was the best way to go about doing that. In the wage survey, you will find though that it does ask for the businesses. That is going to be anonymous information. I would like you know, to make sure that we get information from as many businesses as possible. So any like business with upper and middle management and then non-management employees, I would like to see that information just so I can compile the results. What that'll do is it'll help for new businesses coming into the community. I get that question for new businesses all the time. And then for current businesses for retention, employee retention. So hopefully we can help answer some questions when people are coming into the community through that survey, and that can help, you know, like Gordon with results and stuff for that. Let's see, what else do I have? We're also working with Bedford Acres for May 11th. They have the New Beginnings coming into their location. So we're going to be doing a chamber breakfast on May 11th with them in partnership with for their New Beginnings partnership. So we'll be doing a ribbon cutting and chamber breakfast with that. And then Riviera Maya is under new ownership. So we'll, on May the 5th, Cinco de Mayo, we'll be doing ribbon cutting at Riviera Maya as well. And then lastly, Leadership Bourbon County, we're getting ready to decide on our class for that. Hopefully by Monday, I'll have everybody's stuff in and ready to go. And June 13th, if you want to put on your calendar, that is going to be Government and Justice Day. Usually we bring the class to the commission meeting so they can understand kind of the structure of a commission meeting. So if you, last year was kind of a solid commission meeting for them. So, you know, whatever you all want to do, but I think it's good to open up opportunity for the citizens of our community to see a commission meeting. You know, obviously this is an open meeting, but it does help with informing people in our community coming in and seeing what you guys do. And lastly, our golf scramble is June the 9th for anybody that wants to participate. I think that's all I have. Any questions? And I am not resigning. Thank you.
I did get a text from Gordon, he's unable to make it, but he has a group visiting Paris that he's taking around, which sounds promising.
Fantastic
Okay,
news.
good.
Thank you. Are there any updates from staff members? Brian?
Just a couple of things to update. We talked last time about some of the FEMA properties that the city has inherited, if that's the right term, from years past. There's basically 3 different types of deeds that FEMA has used over the years, and they have different types of restrictions. But one of them is pretty clear that you have to get pre-approval from FEMA before we attempt to do anything. So I think that's the better approach, is to let them know what we're doing, even though some of the properties might not be under that same restriction. So whether the one in question that we were going to start with is or isn't, I think the better approach is communicate with FEMA, let them know what we're doing, get their buy-in, and then we'll start the process. So whoever was in town recently would be a good place to start with. So I'll get with Andrea and get that name and number.
Esther White was the contact in the past. Is Esther still there?
Yeah. she was
Esther
here.
White.
Okay, we'll get in touch with her this week. And secondly, on the new construction for the preschool building for Paris School Systems, there's I think it's water, maybe it's water and sewer, but anyway, that we need to move that, and we need to create a new utility easement with the school. Obviously, it's something they desire, but where it is now, the line would run right under where the building plan is, so we need to get that moved and have an official permanent easement in place. So I'm assuming it's going to be okay with this board, but we'll work on that and get that.
Do you need a
accomplished.
formal motion or something?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
I would move that we engage Mr. Bowman to make that easement happen.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
We'll take care of that. That's all I have.
I don't have anything today.
I just have a couple of quick items. I just want to share with you all an email that I received the other day, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it for the record if you indulge me. It says, "Dear Ms. Miller, please see below letter thanks sent to the citizen recognizing the efforts of our fire department. Designed to sleep in after a recent trip to the East Coast. Imagine being awakened by someone pounding on your door. In a daze, you yell out, "Who is it?" Only to hear them say, "Your deck is on fire." That was our Saturday morning wake up, and thanks to wonderful neighbors, kind golfers, and the quick action of Superintendent Stephen McCauley, who was out running, a major disaster was averted. We cannot thank him enough for going to our neighbors and waking them up to get a hose to try and douse the flame. Major kudos could also go out to our fire department, who found additional smoldering in our attic and took preventative measures for our safety. Chief Michael Duckfee and Lieutenant Branson Eubanks have dedicated, kind, efficient, and effective team for which we are truly thankful. These are the heroes in our midst, and God has blessed us in living in a caring community. Our heartfelt thanks to all. I just wanted to make sure to share and pass along, everybody's thanks for the fire department and what you guys do each day. You have all seen published on our Facebook as well as it has been put on our website. The EPA has created some new guidelines that every water sewer system across America has to do an inventory of what their line is made of, whether it's lead, copper, plastic. We have to have an inventory of each house and what runs between the city's main and up to the house. So this is something that we have to complete in the next year or so. And one of the best ways for us to do it, as opposed to taking staff out to every residence and trying to dig in and find that connection and identify that, which would be time consuming as well as costly, is we are asking all of the residents if they can look at the connection in their house, identify that, and email us what it is made of. So that is allowable under the EPA, is residents can self-identify what their line is made of. So there's a graphic that goes through how do you identify where that is, how do you identify the line. It talks about you can scratch it with a coin to see if it's shiny or not. So it walks you through all that you would need to know in order to help us identify what that line is made of. So we have created a specific email address where people can send that information in. We'll be blasting that out a couple more times and just want to make sure everybody was aware of that initiative. Again, that's an EPA standard. It's just an inventory at this point that we have to identify those lines. So I wanted to make sure to bring you up all to speed on that.
Will we have anybody in place to help senior citizens who may not know what they are really looking at?
We can, there's always some pause when it goes to entering people's houses.
Mm-hmm.
So our first hope is to get a push of who can self-identify, and then we'll bring back to see what we have left and whether we can, we're gonna look and see if we can identify at the meter, different ways that we can identify without having to dig or go into anybody's house, but.
That might be a good program for the summer to engage some youth if they just are looking in the meter pit to see that you can get a group of interns maybe to do some of that kind of legwork.
We also have been contacted by the city of Lexington. They are applying for an EPA grant for a climate pollution reduction grant. This is a $1 million grant and it's for planning services only. And so what the city of Lexington is looking at is it affects their metropolitan area, which Paris and Bourbon County are considered part of. So they have offered out that they would be the leader of this process for us to see, do we want to issue a letter of support to be involved in it. This would just mean that they would do some of, and it's for air pollution, things like that. We would be involved in a part of their study. This does not require any financial obligation from us. And I've also confirmed with them that even if we do the study and they say, here are some ideas for how you can reduce air pollution, we are not obligated at this point to put funds towards any projects or anything like that. This is just a planning grant that they are looking to obtain letters of support from the participating cities and county in their metropolitan area. So they do have a letter drafted that they would like us to sign. The county has declined to participate in the program, but I wanted to bring that forward to you all and get a vote whether or not we would like to issue that letter of support for that grant.
I would like to myself, but I would want the city attorney to review the wording of the letter.
Sure.
Just make sure it's right, but I support that myself personally. I don't know how you.
I would support it.
I do too.
Okay. Well, we will go ahead and get that. It's a very brief letter. I can have Brian read it after the meeting and then we'll get that sent out. Appreciate that. And the last thing I just wanted to remind everybody, we do have the very brief citizen survey out there to get the feedback from the public on what they'd like to see for the city of Paris. It's been out there about a month. We're planning to run it through the end of this week. So it is on the website, it's been on social media. There's also paper copies of it available. They can grab one at the utility window, for example, is a place that we've put those. So we do encourage everybody to complete that citizen survey, and we'll be compiling those results
What's
at the end
your
of the month.
response been so far?
We have about 180 responses last I checked.
Okay.
That's not very good.
It's not very high. It's, you know, it's a start,
start.
yes.
Okay.
I think as we get into the routine of putting these things out a little bit more often, hopefully we'll get a little bit more feedback.
Where can they get the paper surveys?
They are at the utility window.
We also have a link on our
It's on the
page, right?
website as well, yep.
Super.
That's it for me. Mayor?
All I have is I just want to, on behalf of the city, to express our condolences to Dickie Bruner's family who passed away recently. So he's very active. He was a city manager among other activities in the city county. So we wish his family well. That's all I have.
I just want to say that Wallace and I attended Mr. West's birthday party. It was a birthday party off the charts. It was, in so many ways, it was a good representation of all of the organizations that he had belonged to over his 100 years, and it was just a good day. That's all I had.
Thank you all for doing that.
Yeah.
It was fun.
I had the citizen contact me, and I don't know if we have policy set on this or not, but when our utility bill, the 15th, falls on a weekend, I guess if you drop off the bill an hour before the city opens on Monday morning, you're not worried about dealing with the late charge, is that correct?
We do not current practice is we do not apply the late penalty until we process anything from the drop off.
Okay, does the late penalty automatically kick in at a certain time on that Monday? Or, I guess what I'm getting at is a citizen came in first thing Monday morning, forgot to get in by Friday. It's like, can you waive the late fee? And they're like, no, it's already posted, so you're gonna have to pay the late fee.
Sure,
And
so
his thoughts was if I'd come an hour before the city opened and dropped it in the box, I would get hit with this late fee.
That's the way the policy has been, that if it's in the box, it's not added, because they process that box on Monday morning.
right. And my understanding, this situation is he did not drop it in the box. He had come in.
Correct, came in like an
after it was
hour
open
after we
on the day
opened.
after,
Yeah.
right.
So, I
that
mean,
would be a
it's,
penalty, the penalty would be applied in that case.
okay. Okay. That's all I have.
I don't have anything.
Is there any other items to come before us? Okay, hearing none, may I get a motion to adjourn? And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.